Adin Ross just threw $100,000 at the culture, and the internet is asking one terrifying question. Is this generosity or a bribe to save his collapsing empire? Because what's behind that number looks less like charity and more like a crime scene.
Everyone saw the headlines. Streamer makes donation, streamer apologizes, case closed, right? Wrong. What the public sees is a guy trying to make things right. What insiders are whispering is way darker. A creator who lost millions, now scrambling in full damage control mode, using cash as a shield against a backlash that refuses to die. The Doechii situation didn't just hurt feelings, it torched deals, froze partnerships, turned his brand radioactive. And that $100,000? That wasn't random. That was survival money, dressed up like a peace offering.
Let's get into what actually happened behind the scenes, because this is where the money trail starts looking suspicious. May 2025, the Met Gala drama drops. Adin makes comments about Doechii and Megan Thee Stallion that set the internet on fire. Not just trending, exploding. And according to sources close to industry chatter, 2 major brand deals vanished within weeks. Not delayed, not under review, gone. Corporate partners allegedly pulled out, citing reputational risk. Translation, you're too toxic to touch. Now think about that. 2 deals, probably worth 6 figures each, maybe 7, just evaporated. But here's where it gets darker. Fast forward to January 2026. Reports start circulating that a massive NBA-related partnership got scrapped. This wasn't some small sponsorship. This was supposedly one of the biggest deals on Adin's table, multi-million-dollar territory. And executives reportedly cited the exact same reason: racist and misogynistic controversy, the final straw. That's not just losing money, that's watching your entire financial infrastructure collapse in real time. Now let's talk about the timeline, because timing is everything here. January 6th, 2026. Out of nowhere, Wack 100 announces that Adin plans to donate $100,000 to Black-owned businesses in Los Angeles. But the timing? Explosively suspicious. This drops right after Glasses Malone allegedly threatens him, right after the hip-hop world turns ice cold, right after 6ix9ine drops the Bacon diss track that goes nuclear online. That's not coincidence, that's panic. And the internet sees it immediately. Twitter erupts. He's trying to buy forgiveness. This is extortion money. You can't Venmo your way out of misogynoir. The backlash is instant because people can smell desperation from a mile away. Then TMZ runs with it, and suddenly Wack 100 is being framed as some kind of peacemaker, like this is a Hollywood truce. But insiders are saying something completely different. They're saying this wasn't peace, this was a ransom payment. Think about the optics for a second. You lose millions in deals. Your reputation is in freefall. The culture is turning on you. And then suddenly you announce a 6-figure donation. That's not generosity. That's a man throwing cash at a fire hoping it goes out before everything burns. And here's the thing, it almost worked. For about 48 hours, the narrative shifted. Some outlets praised the move. Some voices in the community said it was a step in the right direction. But then the questions started coming. Where exactly is this money going? Which businesses? Who is distributing it? Is this even real or just another PR stunt? And those questions, they never got answered. Not clearly, not transparently. That silence speaks volumes. Because if this was genuine, you'd expect receipts, you'd expect updates, you'd expect some kind of accountability. Instead, radio silence. And that's when people started connecting the dots, mapping out every scandal, every lost deal, every public feud, every desperate move. The pattern is undeniable. Scandal hits, money disappears, reputation tanks, then suddenly a very public, very expensive gesture drops. This isn't random. This is a formula, and Adin's been running it on repeat.
Now let's dig into the motive. because this is where everything starts clicking into place like a twisted puzzle. Adin Ross built his career on controversy, edgy streams, risky guests, pushing boundaries. That formula worked for years. It made him millions. It made him relevant. But there's a difference between edgy and toxic, and somewhere along the way, that line got crossed. The Doechii situation wasn't his first controversy, not even close, but it was the one that broke the dam. Before that, he'd survived cancellations, recovered from backlash, bounced back every time. But May 2025 hit different, because this time, it wasn't just angry tweets, it wasn't just trending hashtags. This time, the money people started paying attention. Brands don't care about Twitter drama, they care about risk assessment. And when your name becomes synonymous with misogyny and racism, you become a liability. And that's exactly what happened. Sources say the first brand to bail was a major energy drink company, the kind of deal that keeps a streamer financially stable for years. Gone. Then a gaming peripheral brand, another multi-year contract, vanished. And here's the brutal part. These companies didn't just cancel deals, they pulled already filmed ads, scrubbed his name from campaigns, erased him like he never existed. That kind of rejection hits different. That's not just losing money, that's being told you're professionally untouchable. Now imagine you're Adin in that moment, watching millions disappear, watching doors slam shut, watching your entire business model implode. What do? You panic. And panic makes people do desperate things. Enter Wack 100, industry veteran, connected, controversial but respected in certain circles. And suddenly, Wack's positioning himself as the mediator between Adin and the culture, the bridge, the fixer. But here's what people are whispering. Wack didn't volunteer for that role. He was hired for it. Think about it. Adin's team knows they're in crisis mode. They know traditional PR won't work. They need someone with street credibility, someone who can broker a deal with the hip-hop community. So they bring in Wack. And Wack's solution? A very public, very expensive donation. But not just any donation. It has to be big enough to make headlines, big enough to shift the narrative, but not so big that it bankrupts what's left of Adin's finances. $100,000. That's the number. Enough to look generous, not enough to actually hurt. And the plan almost worked. Except the culture saw through it immediately. Because here's the thing about authenticity. You can't fake it, especially not when your entire track record screams the opposite. Adin's built his brand on provocation, on saying wild things, on courting controversy for clicks. And now he's trying to rebrand as someone who cares, someone who's accountable, someone who respects the culture. People aren't buying it, and they're definitely not forgetting the context. The Doechii comments weren't a slip-up. They were part of a pattern, a long documented history of disrespect toward Black women, toward women in general. You can't donate your way out of that. But Adin's team is betting you can. They're betting that 6 figures is enough to buy forgiveness, to reset the clock, to forget every people. And maybe in Hollywood that works. Maybe in certain circles you can throw money at a problem and watch it disappear. But in hip-hop, in Black culture, that's not how it works, because the culture has a long memory, and it doesn't accept apologies that come with a price tag attached. So the question becomes, what was Adin really trying to buy? Forgiveness, or just enough time to figure out his next move? Because every move he's made since May looks less like accountability and more like survival tactics. And that desperation, it's starting to show.
But here's the part that really cuts deep. Behind all the headlines and the money and the PR moves, there's real damage. Real people who got hurt, real communities that got disrespected. Real women who became punchlines in someone else's content strategy. Doechii didn't ask for this. Megan didn't ask for this. They're artists, talented, respected, doing their thing. And they got dragged into a controversy they had nothing to do with. Became ammunition in someone else's desperate attempt to stay relevant. That's not just disrespectful, that's violating. And it's part of a bigger pattern. Because Adin's content has always used people, especially Black people, especially women. They're props, backdrops, punchlines. And when the backlash comes, when the consequences hit, those same people are nowhere to be found in his apology tour.
The $100,000 isn't going to them. It's going to businesses, faceless entities, safe targets that make good headlines. Because actually facing the people you hurt, that takes courage Adin hasn't shown. And the culture sees that. They see someone who will throw money at a problem but won't look his victims in the eye. Someone who will make grand gestures but won't do the real work of accountability. And that hurts, because it reinforces something the culture already knows. That they're not respected, that they're not valued, that they're just content to be monetized and discarded. And you can feel that pain in every comment thread, every diss track, every think piece. This isn't just about one streamer's controversy. It's about a system that lets people like Adin profit off disrespect for years and only face consequences when the money people get nervous. That's the real tragedy here. Not that Adin lost deals, but that it took losing deals for anyone to care. And even now, with $100,000 on the table, it still feels like damage control. Not healing, not growth, just survival. And the culture is tired of being treated like a problem to be solved with a check. They want real accountability, real change, real respect. And so far, they're not seeing it. Let's go deeper into the evidence, because the more you dig, the worse this looks. Start with the May 2025 incident. Adin makes the comments. Internet explodes. Standard controversy cycle, right? Except this time, receipts start dropping. Fans turn into full-blown investigators, pulling clips, building timelines, cross-referencing statements. And they find something interesting. Adin's team quietly scrubs certain videos from his channel. Not all of them, just the ones where he said the most problematic things about women, about black artists. That's not an accident, that's damage control. But the internet never forgets. Screen recordings flood Twitter, re-uploads hit YouTube, the evidence is everywhere. Then the brand deals start disappearing. First one's announced through a vague press release, mutually parting ways. Standard corporate speak for "we're running." Second one's quieter, just gone. No announcement, no explanation. The campaign that was supposed to launch in June never materializes. And industry insiders start talking, anonymously but consistently. He's radioactive. Legal teams are flagging him. Nobody wants that smoke right now. By late 2025, the pattern is undeniable. Every few weeks, another partnership dissolves, another opportunity evaporates. And Adin's responding exactly how you'd expect someone in crisis mode to respond. Doubling down, getting defensive, blaming cancel culture, blaming sensitivity, blaming everyone except himself. But behind the scenes, different story. Because sources say his team is in full panic mode. Meetings with PR firms, crisis consultants, reputation management specialists, trying to figure out how to stop the bleeding. And then the NBA deal falls apart. That's the nuclear option. Because NBA partnerships aren't just money, they're legitimacy, they're mainstream acceptance, they're proof you've made it. Losing that, that's a career-defining blow. And allegedly, that's when Wack 100 gets brought in. January 2026, just days after the NBA deal reportedly collapses, just days after Glasses Malone allegedly makes threats, just days after 6ix9ine's diss track goes viral. Perfect timing, right? And suddenly, out of nowhere, this $100,000 donation gets announced. Not through Adin's channels, through Wack's. That's strategic, that's calculated, that's someone trying to control the narrative. And the media runs with it. TMZ, Hip Hop DX, Complex, everyone covers it. Adin Ross donates to black community. Streamer attempts to make amends. Wack 100 brokers peace deal. Sounds good, right? Except the culture isn't buying it. Joe Budden goes off on his podcast, calls it performative, calls it insulting. JasonMartin tweets about it, questions the motives, questions the execution. Glasses Malone reportedly isn't satisfied, still wants real accountability. And 6ix9ine, he doubles down, drops another diss, mocks the donation, calls it guilt money. The backlash to the apology is almost as big as the original controversy, because people see what's really happening.
This isn't about making things right. This is about making the problem go away. And you can throw $100,000 at that goal, you can hire the best PR team, you can get the most connected fixers, but you can't buy authenticity. And that's what the culture is demanding. Not a check, not a press release, not a mediator. Real change, real accountability, real respect. And so far, Adin's shown none of that. Just money, just strategy, just survival instincts. And the internet is keeping receipts on all of it. Every contradiction, every suspicious timeline, every desperate move. Building a case that's impossible to ignore. Not in a courtroom, but in the court of public opinion. And in that court, Adin's losing. Badly. Because the evidence isn't just damning, it's overwhelming. A pattern of disrespect, a history of exploitation, a track record of profiting off harm. And now, when consequences finally show up, $100,000 and a prayer. That's not justice. That's not accountability. That's just sad.
Now let's talk about the broader context, because this story doesn't exist in a vacuum. Adin Ross is part of a larger ecosystem, streamer culture, influencer culture, a world where controversy equals content and content equals money. And in that world, consequences are optional, until they're not. Look at the timeline of influencer accountability. It's wild. Logan Paul films a dead body, career takes a hit, comes back bigger than ever. James Charles faces allegations, loses millions of subscribers, rebuilds. David Dobrik's crew injures someone, sponsorships disappear, he pivots. The pattern is clear. You can survive almost anything if you've got the right strategy, the right team, the right pivot. And Adin's team knows this. They've studied the playbook. They know how this works. Step 1, lay low, let the initial storm pass. Step 2, strategic apology, vague enough to avoid admitting guilt, specific enough to seem sincere. Step 3, grand gesture, something visible, something that makes headlines. Step 4, rebrand, come back with a new angle, a new message, a new audience if necessary. That's the formula, and it works. Except this time, something's different. The culture Adin disrespected isn't his fan base, is not his demographic, it's not people who are emotionally invested in his success. It's hip-hop, it's black culture, communities with their own power, their own platforms, their own ability to enforce consequences. And those communities aren't playing by influencer rules. They're playing by their rules, which include accountability, which include memory, which include consequences that don't disappear after a news cycle. That's why the donation didn't work. That's why the PR blitz failed. That's why Wack 100's mediation fell flat. Because you can't influence your way out of cultural accountability, and Adin's learning that the hard way. Meanwhile, other voices are amplifying the message. Joe Budden's using his platform to keep the pressure on, breaking down every move, questioning every motive. JasonMartin's staying vocal, reminding people of the history, the pattern, the context. Glasses Malone allegedly isn't backing down, still demanding real consequences, real change. And 6ix9ine is, well, he's just adding chaos, throwing gasoline on an already raging fire, because that's what he does. But here's what's interesting. Normally, 6ix9ine would be easy to dismiss, a troll, a clout chaser, someone making noise for attention. But in this case, his bacon diss track actually resonated, because it put into words what a lot of people were feeling. That Adin's apology felt hollow, that the donation felt transactional, that the whole thing reeked of desperation. And when even 6ix9ine's trolling lands, you know you've lost the culture. That's where Adin is right now, lost. Not financially, he's still got money, still got a platform, still got fans, but culturally, he's adrift. And the scary part is, he might not be able to find his way back, because the bridges he burned aren't just charred, they're ash. And you can't rebuild with ash. Let's zoom out, because this story is about way more than one streamer's controversy. What we're watching is a test case. Can influencers buy their way out of cultural accountability? That's the real question, and the answer matters, because if Adin's strategy works, it sets a terrifying precedent that you can disrespect entire communities
profit off that disrespect for years, and then wire transfer your way back to relevance when consequences show up. That outrage has a price tag, and if you can afford it, you're fine. That's dystopian, that's dangerous, and that's exactly what's at stake here. The $100,000 isn't just about Adin, it's about every future influencer who calculates that disrespect is profitable as long as you budget for the apology. And the culture is rejecting that math. They're saying no. You don't get to monetize harm and then expense the consequences. You don't get to treat accountability like a line item. And you definitely don't get to use our communities as props, punchlines, and profit centers. That's the message. And it's not just coming from Twitter. It's coming from artists, industry people, cultural gatekeepers, people with power, people with platforms, people who can enforce consequences beyond bad press. And that's new. 5 years ago, maybe this strategy works. Maybe Adin rides it out. Maybe the controversy fades. But the landscape has shifted. Social media has given marginalized communities their own megaphones, their own distribution, their own ability to shape narratives. And they're using that power, not just to criticize, to demand, to enforce, to punish. That's the new reality influencers are facing. And some of them are adapting, learning, growing. But others, they're still playing by old rules, still thinking they can controversy bait their way to success without consequences, still believing money solves everything. And Adin Ross is about to find out if they're right. Because this is the inflection point. Either his $100,000 bet pays off and he rehabilitates his image, or it fails spectacularly and becomes a cautionary tale, a warning to every future influencer who thinks they can disrespect the culture and buy their way back. Right now, it's looking like the latter. The donation didn't move the needle, the apology didn't land, the mediators didn't mediate, and the culture is still demanding real accountability. Not performative, not transactional, real. And until Adin provides that, he's stuck, in limbo, in crisis, in a reputation spiral that money can't stop. That's the broader implication. Money isn't enough anymore. Strategy isn't enough. PR isn't enough. You actually have to be accountable. And that terrifies a lot of people in influencer culture, because accountability requires growth, change, humility, things that don't come naturally to people who built careers on ego and provocation. But that's the new cost of doing business, and Adin Ross is paying it in real time. So here we are, the $100,000 question. Was this donation a genuine attempt to repair damage, or a calculated bribe to save Adin's career from total annihilation? Let's look at the evidence one more time. Millions lost, multiple deals collapsed, NBA partnership gone, culture turned hostile. Then suddenly, strategically, suspiciously, a six-figure donation. Not to the women he disrespected, not directly to the communities he harmed, but to businesses, through a mediator with maximum press coverage. That's not healing, that's optics. And the culture called it immediately, because they've seen this movie before. Different cast, same script. Powerful person does harm, faces consequences, throws money at the problem, hopes it goes away. Sometimes it works, sometimes the news cycle moves on, sometimes people forget. But not this time, because the culture is paying attention and they're not interested in letting this slide. They want accountability, real, sustained, meaningful accountability. And $100,000 isn't that. It's a down payment, maybe, if it's even real. But here's the wild part. We still don't have confirmation. Which businesses got the money, how it was distributed, who verified it, whether it even happened. Just 100's word, some headlines, some press. No receipts, no transparency, no follow-up. That silence is deafening, because if this was real, you'd expect updates, progress reports, some kind of accountability. Instead, nothing. And that makes people wonder, was this ever real? Or was it just a press release designed to buy breathing room? Did Adin actually cut a check, or did his team just plant a story and hope the controversy would fade? We don't know, and that's the problem. Because without transparency, this whole thing looks like a scam, a desperate PR move that never materialized. And if that's true, if this was all smoke and mirrors, then Adin's not just canceled, he's done. Because you can survive controversy, you can survive backlash, you can even survive losing millions, but you can't survive being exposed as fake. And right now, that's exactly how this looks. A faker trying to fake an apology with fake generosity. And the culture is watching, waiting, building the case, ready to deliver the verdict. And unless something changes, unless Adin provides real proof, real accountability, real change, that verdict is going to be brutal. Not just canceled, erased, removed from the culture entirely. A cautionary tale, a warning label, a name that becomes synonymous with everything wrong with influencer culture. That's what's at stake. And the clock is ticking. Because the internet is patient, but it's not forgiving. And once the culture decides you're done, no amount of money can save you. Not 100,000, not 1 million, not 10 million. Because at that point, it's not about money anymore. It's about principle. And the culture's principle is clear. You don't get to disrespect us and walk away. Not anymore.
And that's where we are right now. The culture is split. Some people see a step toward healing, a flawed attempt maybe, but an attempt. Others see a desperate man throwing money into a burning reputation, hoping something sticks. The truth? Probably somewhere in between. But the perception, that's what matters. And right now, the perception is brutal. Adin Ross isn't seen as accountable. He's seen as scared. Not sorry, just scared of losing everything. And that fear is showing in every move, every statement, every strategic donation. It's all damage control, all survival instinct, all panic. And the culture can smell it. So here's the question for you. Can you donate your way out of misogynoir? Can you wire transfer your way back into a culture's good graces after years of disrespect? Or is this the moment Adin Ross's empire finally collapses for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is far from over. Do you think the donation was genuine or calculated? Do you think Adin deserves a second chance, or is he finished? And what does this mean for influencer accountability going forward? Let's talk about it. Make sure you hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update. Because this story is still unfolding. More details are dropping. More receipts are surfacing. And trust me, this is about to get even crazier. I appreciate you for rocking with me through this deep dive. Stay safe out there, stay critical, and remember, the internet never forgets, and the culture always collects. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.